Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Security threats are everywhere. But with Xfinity XFi, you're notified of threats to your in-home Wi-Fi network, so all your connected devices are protected. That's simple, easy, awesome. Go online, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit today. Restrictions apply.
This is the Russo-Souhan Show, part of the Talk North podcast network. TalkNorth.com is the host site for all the shows these days. We have a new business show with Joe Leach, a new basketball show and societal show with Cheryl Reeve, a new millennial show. I know Michael's going to be excited about that. The Flow, check that out, as well as all of our usual shows on all the big sports. Of course, we are talking to Michael after the dismissal of Chuck Fletcher as the Wild general manager. Let's start here, Michael. Somebody emailed me this question the other day. What's it like to cover the dismissal of somebody who you know very well and even like and admire? I've had to do it, in baseball and in football when I was a beat writer. What's it been like for you?
I hate to sound heartless, but I will.
But go ahead. Yeah.
It's just business as usual. This is the business they're in.
It is the business they chose.
You feel more so for his family, his wife and kids. Now, look, obviously we know that these jobs are well compensated, but they live in this area. He's got one son that's going to his senior year of high school, so that's actually where from my standpoint, you think of is like, all right, this really does take a family and kind of turn them upside down, similar to when Mike Yo was fired, and same exact situation. I think his son was going to his senior year of high school, so now. If Chuck Fletcher leaves here and has to go work for another team, now is he going to be separated from his family for a year? Because I would think that his wife is going to want to make sure that their son doesn't have to leave his senior year of high school. So there's stuff like that is that what you think about personally. When I was done with everything yesterday, and I sent Chuck a nice note and heard back from him, but look, I've covered this league for a long time. I met Chuck Fletcher 23 years ago. I've covered a lot of people that I was tight with, get fired. Brian Murray, Doug McClain. Mm-hmm. And that was when I was younger in the business, it actually affected you. But when you cover, you become, tighter with certain players, certain managers, certain scouts, and you kind of get used to them eventually leaving. So it just doesn't kind of affect you that way. So more so the last 3 days is that, my only thing was get the scoop, have my story already written. I was 100% convinced he was not going to be retained. That's why I wrote my game story that way. And that's why I spent, obviously, that story that I put wasn't written in a second. That thing was written over a day and a half, and we dressed it up, and it happened the way that I thought it was going to happen. So more so from that standpoint, you just kind of do your job and kind of move on. And look, Chuck will be in the league a long time. I'll talk to him from afar. We'll probably be tighter from afar. Mm-hmm. Because I will say it was a very business like relationship the last several years. It was not like when he was the young assistant GM of the Florida Panthers. So that probably also made it easier because it wasn't like I was really losing a buddy, by any stretch.
Thanks to Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, TWILL on Instagram. Thanks also to fixologyrepair.com. Locations, Mall of America, 3rd floor by Nordstrom's, and their new location that I walk by all the time, downtown, just south of the Wells Fargo Center in the Skyway. And thanks to Tony Hoagland, Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin, who handles my insurance and Michael's insurance. The other, two more things about what you said. Number one is, I feel like if somebody in the newspaper industry loses a job, I feel terrible for them. It might ruin their life. Chuck's made a lot of money. He will have other jobs. He may get another general manager job. He's going to be okay. And the other thing is, sometimes people benefit from this kind of a career change. Sometimes they get away, they get perspective. Sometimes the next job is actually a better job. It doesn't have to be seen as a destructive moment.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I have not, I will be honest, other than text messages, I have not talked to Chuck in the last day as of this podcast. And I'm sure when he's ready to talk, he'll give me a ring. But I will say, my personal belief is he's probably a bit relieved. He's hit the point of where this franchise is at. I think he realizes the challenges that are there right now, partially his own doing, partially what's on the ice, partially the dynamic of with ownership and what he wants, and so I think that there's probably a little bit of and the pressure from the outside. The fact that he is very maligned right now with the fans and the players and fans and the media. And then again, I'm sure that deep down, especially if he didn't know after he read my gamer the other day that there were people back. I don't want to use the word backstabbing him, but from behind, there were people in the owner's ear like, it's time for you to get rid of him. So if all of a sudden here's your 2-year deal, and he knows he's got these people, whoever they are, behind him, trying to gun for him, I think that you're ready to go. So I do think he's going to move on and probably be in a better place. And now the question is, can the next GM of this Wild team get them to a better place? Because there are a lot of challenges.
No question about it. Let's get into those challenges and the decision-making process. Let us first thank Scott Dayton and his shop, Twill in the Edina Galleria. That's right there on France Avenue. You've driven by it. Great place to shop. Great shop to shop in. Very relaxed. This, I have to admit, usually I say I'm wearing a piece of clothing I got from Twill. This is the rare time I'm actually not. So after the show's over, I'll go back and go home and put it on.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
Top candidates, or is there more than one?
I think that it depends on who's what type of person you want. Do you want a former former player that's kind of a young executive in the league? There's 5 that jump to my head right away. One's Tom Fitzgerald, who I'm biased. I'd hope he'd get. The other's Scott Mellenby. I'm kind of biased there too. The other's Billy Guerin. The other's Chris Pronger, and the other's Martin Brodeur, who I'm also kind of biased just because he was one of my favorite people to deal with as a player.
Of that list, the one I can't really imagine being a general manager of an NHL team
is Pronger.
Pronger.
Yeah, and he'd love it. And right now he's a senior advisor in Florida. He might be the heir apparent to Dale Talon. We'll see. But he is somebody that I think wants to get into it. He's an intelligent guy. He'd probably be the perfect person to come in here and bang some heads around with some of the egos on this team. And so, hey, look, the one thing though, because of the challenges that I mentioned and the fact that you're dealing with all sorts of dynamics in terms of contracts that are difficult, guys that you probably need to trade. It might be hard to just put somebody with very little experience in here. So, if you continue from that point on, there's the kind of the recycled guys, for lack of a better term. Dean Lombardi, who got a start here with the North Stars, was the GM long time in San Jose and Los Angeles. There's Don Maloney, who's a longtime GM in Arizona. There's Brian Lawton, who's in Tampa for a year and former agent. So there's those type, Mike Gillis, those people, John Ferguson Jr. And then there's kind of the long list of quality assistant GMs out there. From Brent Flair to Julien Brisebois to Bill Zito, who's a former agent, Norm McGivers, who's local, that's from Chicago, Tommy Curvers. But the lead candidate that we all think is Paul Fenton. It's something that I've heard for months. He's extremely close with, or at least there's a lot of respect there from Craig Leopold. He is in a lot of ways at least credited with the very deep, long-standing quality prospects that the Nashville Predators have, and we see the way that team has been built. And I think there's a lot of people that probably think that especially that David Poile gets older, that maybe Fenton's even taken on more of a role where he's almost been, essentially helping be the GM of that team. That's a well-run organization between David Poile, his son Brian Poile, and Paul Fenton. That's one reason why his name is out there. And I think that a lot of people look at the Wild as where they could improve his drafting and developing, and that's kind of his cup of tea. So what that tells you is if he comes here, that it all of a sudden could potentially put a lot of guys in the organization at peril in the hockey ops. It's hard to imagine Brent Flair and Paul Fenton coexisting when he's been the right-hand man of Chuck Fletcher and his job is drafting and developing of the Wild. It could potentially put even Brunette and Baumer in a tough spot. Shep Harder, who's the co-assistant GM with Andrew Brunette, I think makes a lot of sense to retain. Very smart guy. He's kind of their cap guy. He is their CBA guy. And again, if you consider that Paul Fenton's more of a player personnel guy, draft and development guy, that it would make sense to have somebody like Shep here who's worked for a couple, has been very, very well respected inside the organization, non-threatening, that type of thing. Extremely intelligent. And then you have a bunch of scouts that were mostly retained through the Doug Riseborough era that I think are all in deep trouble. I mean, if a guy like Fenton came in, I think he's going to have his own people. He's going to bring his own guys in. And I think, frankly, if you look at the draft and development of the Wild, regardless of the lack of draft picks that they might have had because of the moves that Chuck made, there have been a lot of swings and misses in terms of guys they took and a lot of guys that they missed on that they probably should have taken or could have taken, right behind. So they're in a tough spot, and they're all, I think, under in their final year of their contract.
I have a theory, and we have a lot of Twitter questions to get to today. We'll also talk about Michael's upcoming travels for his company, The Athletic, theathletic.com. I'll get to my theory in a second. I do want to thank John Hedges, our friend from Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. Again, locations, Mall of America, 3rd floor by Nordstrom's. That's where the big mothership is. The new shop is just south of the Wells Fargo Center, downtown Minneapolis, right across from Dunn Brothers, right near Taco John's. Nice little space, lots of accessories as well as the services they provide. So please check out fixologyrepair.com. It's where I take my stuff to get fixed.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
So my theory, Michael, is if you were going to fire Chuck Fletcher after a pretty good season this year, pretty good regular season, and a playoff disappointment against a superior team, you probably just should have fired him when this team played horrible against the Blues last year.
Yeah, probably. I think that he wanted to see where this team was going, Craig. But look, you're right. I mean, last year made probably more sense because it was a much bigger disappointment, and all it did is delay things a year. But this is what he decided. He let him work the final year of the deal. When I broke that story in November, you just knew that he was in trouble. Yeah. But I can tell you something's changed. A week and a half ago, he was safe. And something's changed in the last week and a half. It's a lot of what I've been writing, that there were people in Craig's ear. And, I hate to say it, that article I wrote probably buried Chuck. Because what it did is it woke up the people that wanted him out of here, and they essentially went to Craig and said, "Is this true?" And then they started analyzing and dissecting the moves that have been made over the last couple of years. And again, look, maybe this was the right move. I'm not saying it wasn't, but that story that coincidentally I wrote was probably the undoing. I mean, it really is unbelievable. that he was going to probably get a 2-year deal. Now, maybe Craig says that it's not really accurate, but maybe, the fact that Game 5 was so ugly and the fact that Niederreiter, Coyle, and Zucker failed so dramatically in the playoffs might have changed it anyway, and maybe the story wound up being meaningless. That maybe Craig was so on fire after that game, his temperature was hot after that game, so maybe he would have changed his mind anyway. But it definitely it woke up some people that wanted him out the last week and a half, and they had spent the week and a half pretty much convincing Craig that it was time for fresh eyes atop.
The people who wanted him out are these ownership level? Are these
all levels?
All levels.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Confidence.
Interesting.
He's got you've seen Craig. He's got
Yep.
he's got confidence. He's got a lot of people that he's friends with. He's got a lot of people that he listens to, and so I think a lot of a handful of them definitely got in his ear.
Let's do some Twitter questions from Jason Malley. What are good resources to understand the intricacies of pro hockey?
At Russo Hockey.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, theathletic.com.
From NH, how come we never talk about the Wild picking Alex Tuch over David Pastrnak?
Well, or Zach Phillips over Card Raquel, or dropping down one to take Louis Belpedio to get a 7th round pick from Tampa, and they took Braden Point. You can go on, and there, you could do this with every team, but there have been a lot of misses, and not just in the first round, like you mentioned there. I mean, Eriksson Ek over Brock Besser, Luke Cunnin over maybe Kiefer Bellows. I mean, we're just everything's speculation, but I think that if the new GM comes in and analyzes this stuff, I think he's going to have those questions.
Right, absolutely. From Vicky Stevens, our old friend, Jim, could you explain how all the podcast networks lay out? Is Talk North separate or the replacement for MNSPN? Talk North is a replacement website and brand for MNSPN.com. We just found people couldn't really remember MNSPN. It just didn't stick with people. We talked to a bunch of marketing people. They think that Talk North will stick in people's brains. We also wanted to have it be more of a broader based name because we have a business show now. We might add some other non-sports shows. We have a lot of places we can go with the new brand. So that's the deal. And main Twitter is, what is it, Brandon? Talk North Pod. Talk North Pod is the main Twitter, and it is Talk North on Twitter, on Facebook as well. So thanks, Vicky. We appreciate it. From Russo Slacks, hello, Michael. From Kyle Yelly.
He asked a question on one of my mailbags that I'm going to write today. Have you called your mother today? And I'm definitely going to end the...
She's been active lately.
I'm going to end the podcast oh, look at this. HP, not the podcast. I was going to end the mailbag with a groan. May 7th and 8th at HP Pavilion, U2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I saw him at US Bank Stadium. The sound was terrible.
Not that I'm doing other stuff during the podcast.
No, not that you would do that at all.
I'm trying to, what's frustrating and I'm distracting here is that I leave in an hour for Vegas and we don't have a schedule yet. And I know for a fact they're starting the series Thursday. So, how do you not, if you're an NHL, put out a freaking schedule?
Yeah.
What day is today? Tuesday.
That's crazy.
Not only does the team, San Jose Sharks, have to get on a plane tomorrow and secure hotel rooms, but shouldn't Shark fans be allowed to maybe come to game one?
Yes.
Without 15 hours notice? Mm-hmm. I mean, just put out the freaking schedule. It's embarrassing that they have not put out a schedule yet.
Every once in a while, the NHL will just do something and you go, God, how backwards.
And my thing is, I'm sitting upstairs, I'm packing here, and I don't know how long to pack for. I'm wondering if I can parachute back in and do some GM stuff, although you could do a lot of that by phone. But I'd love to come back May 5th just for a day because my sister-in-law is in town, and we got a little Trampled by Turtles concert.
Nice.
So, I'm just trying to see what I can do here, and they will not put out a schedule. So as you were doing your podcast here, this little funny podcast, I was looking at the I was looking at the arena availability, just trying to figure out my own things for games 4, 5, and 6. So that's why I was a little distracted, and luckily a little tweet from Russo Slacks put me in a better mood.
From UC Tervaharshala. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get it.
I'm sure you got that right.
When will the show be on SoundCloud? That's a kind of an inside question. Do we know?
Right away.
right away. From Carson, seems like the only types of trades that can be made are hockey trades. So are there any players that have not 100% performed to expectation that would be a good trade for Coyle?
Well, Montreal was interested in Coyle at the trade deadline, the way that I understand it, and I think we know at the deadline that they were looking to trade guys like Galchenyuk and Pacioretty. I don't know if that would have been, I'm sure a lot more than Coyle. I just would be shocked if Coyle's back on this team. I mean, maybe a new GM comes in and is going to want to see a guy with a toolbox like that in front of his own eyes before he makes what his mind could be a potential mistake in trading him. But Coyle was such a disappointment this year, and I know that the current people that are still around think he was a disappointment, and I think would be like, okay, it's time now. So we'll see.
From Russo's,
and he has an affordable contract where you could probably trade.
Right. From Russo's hips, what players are highest on the list to dump when the new GM tweaks the team?
I don't even know what you asked. What is the name of that? That's to do with
Russo
the hips joke I made?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Well, you brought that on yourself.
Another parody account.
We don't have enough. Do you feel like answering it, or are you going to not answer in protest?
You should have, next Twitter account should be Russo's bad mood. So what's the question?
It's a little redundant.
From
Russo's hips, what contracts players are the highest on the list to dump when the new GM tweaks the team?
I think they'd consider trading Nino. Again, Dumba and Zucker are RFA. I'd be hesitant to trade Zucker. I just think this team got slower this year. Man. Well, and this team got slower, and I just think it's dangerous. I think a lot more than they let on. They missed Eric Holla this year. It slowed them down, and I just think they look like a slow team this year. Maybe it didn't help that Nino was hurt, or again, to use the word hurt is a tough word because he's going to the World Championships tomorrow. But I think that both Nino and Coyle were affected all year, and it affected their foot speed. And then you got Zucker, you got Koivu, who's only slowing down. You got Suter, who knows how he's going to skate when he gets back after this injury. And so I just think they looked slow this year. To all of a sudden, get rid of a Zucker because he had a bad playoff, I just don't think is something that they should do right away, depending on what type of contract he's looking for, obviously. Brodin is somebody that I thought, especially with 4+, that you should consider moving, but and frankly, my opinion didn't change that much because I thought he did not have a good postseason, especially Game 5. But again, as I just said, with Suter, not knowing if he's even going to play again, let alone what he's going to play like, because again, he has an injury that is potentially a disaster. I think it's just dangerous to trade Brodin right now, but maybe the new GM is going to come in and want to change it up.
Question from Nikolai next. Do want to thank Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin. It's Hoaglund. And again, Michael and I both have our insurance with Tony and his company.
End of the month, State Farm, for all of our good drivers, no tickets, no accidents, good credit folks. They were taking a small rate decrease. So if you haven't reviewed your insurance recently, that's probably a good time to do it. The other person I would say that we're really helping a lot out lately is anybody that has a house that was built within the last 10 years. So if you got a home that's 10 years old or less, our rates really can't be beat on our homeowners policy in that kind of market. So now's probably a good time if you're one of those folks, just to maybe give us a shot. Call us 763-421-4900. Let us give you a second look. Keep your current insurance company honest.
From Nikolai, do you think the new GM will be more inclined for conservative small tweaks or blowing things up?
If you listen to Craig Leopold tomorrow or yesterday,
or tomorrow,
he doesn't want it blown up, and so
that's the thing. He wants those playoff dates.
Yeah, he wants. That's funny.
Both. I mean, both playoff dates.
He wants more.
Game 3 and Game 4.
Yeah, he'd love a third playoff date finally. But maybe the way to get long-term playoff dates for an actual multiple rounds would be to blow it up. But again, he's made it clear that he wants to. The concern is that the next GM is going to say, kind of either that you're going to be with his philosophy now that he doesn't want this thing blown up, and that he wouldn't hire the guy that says it needs to be blown up. I think that The concern is that you're either going to have a GM candidate that's going to sit there and lie to him because they want to get in the door, or or good quality GM candidates that are going to be immediately, they're going to tell him the truth. Look, Craig, sorry, man, this team is not good enough with a couple tweaks. We've got to make significant changes. And now you're going to take a good candidate and say, all right, you're no longer a candidate. So, but I think Craig, you're right. I mean, he wants the building full. I think he feels like he's spent a fortune on this team, and I don't want, meaning him, I don't want to sit there and live through the misery. I think he feels like the majority of fans don't want to live through the misery. And then I think that he feels like I just invested 13 years and a ton of money into guys like Parisi and Suter, and I've got Stahl and Koivu entering their peak years. And if all of a sudden we blow it up and now get them even into later years in their stage, that he essentially wasted those investments on those players for a team that is about to be non-playoff teams. But the reality is that this team very well could take a step back here if all of a sudden you start trading core guys that you think don't have the ability to get you over the hump in the playoffs, but every single year get you into the playoffs. And that's the interesting quandary with this team right now, is that you look at the guys that they want to move, and for a team that had significant injuries all year long and half a year without Parisi, this team, these players were good enough to get you into the playoffs, but then showed again that they couldn't get you on a long playoff run. Well, now if you trade those guys that got you in the playoffs, you could potentially take a step back. So that's what I mean by it's a challenge.
My question is, would Minnesota Wild fans still fill the building through a rebuild?
Probably not. I think they're taking a hit on attendance now. I mean, I don't believe that their sellout streak's really intact, and I do. You saw the sound or heard the sound of that crowd in Game 4. I mean, it was a crowd that was getting frustrated. You know, that this again, there just wasn't a lot of excitement in that game. Now that a lot of it was the product on the ice, but I think it was also the fact that these fans and the buzzkill that 4 hours before the game, it was announced that Zach was out.
Right.
But yeah, I think that they started to say, like, again, like, I think you don't have to be. That's why it's like I made a joke, I think, on the podcast a week or two ago, that one person that commented in my article, where's my pride for picking the Jets to win in 5? Like, that's not my job.
No.
My job is not to sit there and look at this team with the heart of a Wild fan. It's to look at them objectively and say, look, they're not good enough to beat Winnipeg. And I think any Wild fan that night were probably looking at the same thing. And that's why it was such a subdued crowd that night. That was not a playoff sound in that building. And so, I think that they're likely, if they all of a sudden went 2 years of misery, I'm sure when the fans got, come back, when all of a sudden they get a couple top draft picks and develop them, they'd come back in droves. But I don't think they're going to want to go to games where you're going to know you got no shot every night.
Yep. From Jason.
And that's what Craig Leopold's worried about, because he spends to the cap. He spends over the cap. He's invested tons of money into the payroll of this team and the payroll of a crappy Iowa team for 5 years. And so I think that he's just, he doesn't want to stomach that. And hey, it's his team. It's, we can all be frustrated or say you're making the wrong move, Craig, by saying that, no rebuild, don't get top draft picks, do it this way, put your GM in the same position that you put the old GM in. But it's his team. If you want to buy it from him, be my guest. I'm sure he'd sell it to you for the right price.
Well, I mean, you have athletic money. Why don't you buy the team?
Not yet. Plus, I've been around sports long enough to know that it's just not a great investment.
Michael Russo's decided not to put his riches into an NHL franchise. He's richer working for the Athletic. From Jason,
I wouldn't mind
Piant.
managing this team.
Have you applied?
Cool. No. Maybe I'll do that.
He scratched his face, by the way, in a very contemplative way. So I think Michael Russo has a chance to break the news that Michael Russo has been hired as the next general manager of the Minnesota Wild. From Jason Piant, can you provide detail on trades that Fletcher turned down? Did the Wild turn down reasonable return for Johansson, Druin, Hall, et cetera, at any time?
Well, I don't think they were in on Hall, which just perturbs me, just from everything I hear. In terms of Druin, I think they were in on them and just couldn't get it done. And on terms of Johansson, I just think that Columbus picked up what they thought was a better deal, being what I was told, Jonas Brodin instead of and they took Seth Jones, which, hey, I mean, they've got a Norris Trophy type player there, so they made the right move for their organization. So, I mean, everything's speculation. I don't have a list. I don't have exactly, 100%. Did Chuck fail, or did he just not have the assets to get it done?
From TJ Voigt, does Olofsson have any trade value?
Not big trade value.
Yeah. From Alec, he asked about offseason acquisitions, and I think we've kind of gotten into that. Let's see. Let's find another good question here from Jason Pion again. Was taking back Foligno and Ennis the only way Fletcher could move Scandella Pominville to make cap room, or did he truly think he was making a good hockey trade?
No, I think that he was the only thing that he could, and I think he felt like he had to get it done before July 1st. And, again, the big one there was Pominville. You could have gotten Marco Scandella to Montreal or something like that, but they wanted to get it was the Pominville part of that they didn't feel like they had any choice to get him to anywhere. And when somebody was willing to take him, they were essentially willing to take back a bad contract in Ennis. So, and they wound up saving about $2.5 million, and they did. They needed every penny of that savings because you saw all year long how this team had trouble with recalls and things like that. So, the contract that still to me was way too exorbitant was the Foligno deal. I just cannot imagine that. Right before a season with his first year with an organization that he was going to essentially have a contract dispute and not sign. Mm-hmm. I think that if all of a sudden the Wild held firm and it said to Pat Morris's agent, essentially, no, we're not signing him for more than 2-2 or whatever, that I bet you that if all of a sudden we got to the eve of training camp, that Foligno would have been like, okay, get it done. I don't want to miss camp. And maybe it doesn't have to be a 4-year deal, which also would have helped the Wild. So
one or two more Twitter questions. Thank you for sending all the Twitter questions in. I know we don't get to all of them, but we try to have a reasonable sampling. Again, check out talknorth.com for all of the shows. Follow Talk North Pod on Twitter. And, like I said, check out some of the new shows as well as the usual war horses, including this one from R2 Pojalainen. I hope I got that right. I'm sure I did, and I apologize. Where will the Wild pick in this year's draft? Is that settled?
Well, they were the 8th best team in the league, so what would that put them at, around 23?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
There's 31 teams in the league now, so what would that be, 24 actually? 24, 27, yeah, I think 24.
So they ain't getting a superstar.
No.
Let's see. I'm going to try to find one more really good Twitter question, then we'll wrap things up. From Generous Carriage, our friend Lonnie. According to Chad Graff's story in The Athletic, Paul Fenton was instrumental in Nashville drafting Suter and developing a relationship with him after that. Please talk me down from being alarmed by this. We're not going to talk you down. We're going to let you be alarmed. From Zach Brown, we'll wrap it up here. Would you trade the rights of Kaprizov?
No.
Okay. And from Daniel Martin...
what was the answer? The rest of it, I feel bad. The
rest of it was to a team for a young scorer, all-star, game-changing player.
I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that team would do that. So
Jamie McCarthy.
Maybe I changed my mind on the no.
Jamie McCarthy wants to know if the statute of limitations is passed on the Harding Foot story.
No.
And
isn't everybody excited that they listen to this podcast?
Yes, from Ben Branson. Yeah, you put a lot of heart and soul into this.
No.
Ben Branson, do you see the new leadership taking away the C from Mikko like San Jose did with Big Joe?
Well, the new leadership didn't take the C away from Big Joe. It was the old leadership. It was Dave Wilson who's like, I hate you. I'm taking the C away. And Doug Wilson, and it helped. There's no doubt about that. But what's funny is that I don't think that, from what I hear, is the guys in the room actually didn't want it to go to Pavelski. They wanted it to go elsewhere. And so I think, Thornton's actually a very popular figure in that locker room. And I don't think that there was a lot of guys that were excited about that. And I don't even think Pavelski ever really at the beginning felt comfortable with that. But in terms of Mikko, new leadership could potentially take that away from him, especially if you want him to say like, I'll waive my no move.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to do it. I'll tell you, I think that it's pretty well known that on this podcast, it'd be hypocritical for me to rip Chuck for that signing now, but because if you remember on the podcast, I thought it was the right move at the time, but man, do I not agree with that anymore. I just did not like the way that he played down the stretch or in the playoffs, other than Game 3 where he made a couple great plays on the Parise goals, or the one Parise goal, then it was Granlund, I think. But the reason why I thought that the move was right at the time was I just felt like there was nobody in the organization, which is partly an indictment of management, that could do what he could do away from just scoring. And now I look at it and I'm like, what was the rush? You know, you could have probably gotten him for much cheaper. He was probably going nowhere. You might have ticked him off, but who cares?
Yeah. And
now he can't even do what I thought nobody else in the organization could do, which was win a key draw in the last 5 minutes of a hockey game. Again, I look at that game one loss where we all want to rip on Dumba and rip on Parisi. Parisi for the back check, Dumba for the turnover, but where the mistake happened in the offensive zone when Koivu got, in my eyes, too aggressive and the puck came out on transition. And then in the neutral zone when he laid on Patrick Laine. And this is a Selke Trophy guy that last year, a nominee. So that contract is one that the new GM is going to probably even more like look. Anybody that's coming here is going to look at Parisi and Suter and be like, okay, that's a challenge. But that one, they're going to be like, really, this is what I got to deal with suddenly. You know, when it probably didn't need to be dealt with so quickly. And that's where, you know, again, where it's dangerous having you have a GM that even yesterday Craig Leopold said I left him in the last year of the deal because my antenna was up that we were probably going to make this change, and then you let him make that commitment to Mikko, and now in hindsight, it's probably not the right move.
You got a flight to catch, and you've just depressed me, so let's move on. We will talk again next week. Michael might be on the road. We might be doing a phoner. He's going to be traveling all postseason.
Yeah, I'll be covering the Vegas San Jose series for the Athletics, so definitely read that. But I can promise you that from the road, I'll be covering the GM search. So
stay tuned. We will bring you Michael will bring you the news. We will bring you the insights behind the news. Thanks for listening to TalkNorth.com.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
Now is the chance to use reliable energy to grow your money with the Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. Our new investment product offers competitive returns, no maintenance fees, and flexible online access to your money. Make the reliable investment in reliable energy. The Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. To find out more, go online to reliabilityinvestment.com. That's reliabilityinvestment.com.
Security threats are everywhere. But with Xfinity XFi, you're notified of threats to your in-home Wi-Fi network, so all your connected devices are protected. That's simple, easy, awesome. Switch to Xfinity today and get a great offer. You'll get fast speeds and the best in-home Wi-Fi experience with Xfinity XFi. Plus, ask about enhanced security for safer browsing and more. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store to switch today. Restrictions apply.